Yeah. In. Okay. All right. So let's just go on to the next slide. So for those of you that have just joined, we're inviting the aspects of beginner's mind and curiosity into our session today. I'm just going to try and get to the next slide here. 1 second, guys. Sorry about this. Okay. So, yeah, I thought it would be really nice to share with you my first experience of therapy and how I came to be involved with Metavision. Um, and just that first experience and how profound that was for me. And it was really having that experience of being somebody that had been trained in the Metavision model. And they had really embodied these qualities of these meta skills of compassion and deep presence and awareness. And it had such a profound impact on me. I don't think I'd felt like I'd ever been seen or felt so quite so safe or accepted as I had working with this therapist. So I was on a slightly different trajectory, slightly different path. I was teaching yoga and meditation and movements. And I have a background in somatic therapy as well. And when I was in Bali, somebody said to me, "Oh, look, why don't you go and have a meeting with this therapist? He's a really interesting guy." And I thought, oh, great. And it was actually the first experience of therapy that I had ever had. I was in my 30s, and I think it was the start of my journey. And so, yeah, I had traveled to Bali to become certified in somatic therapy and moving more towards a career of yoga and embodiment practices. And I had this really transformative experience with this practitioner. And like I said to you, there was just such a beautiful quality and such a beautiful way of being this person had. It really stuck with me. And I had to ask them where they had done their training. And I remember when I went back to my hotel that night, this thought had never occurred to me before. And I thought, oh, I have to look up this place that this person studied with. I'd love to be able to embody those qualities too and just help somebody feel, really seen and heard. And at the time, I had really, I don't know, I had so many different thoughts around therapy. It was quite a long time ago as well. I think maybe there was still some stigma. I feel like the culture has changed a lot in regards to mental health over the past couple of years. But yeah, I was really fascinated, and that was it. And I kept thinking about it and thinking about it. And at the time, I was living in France. And there was no way that I could come back to Australia and do the training. It wasn't going to happen. And then, unfortunately, or fortunately for me, COVID happened. And then they brought the Metavision model online. And so I was actually able to participate during the COVID period in France. And then when COVID ended, I came back and graduated. And now I'm actually back in Australia working with them. So it's a really, yeah, like it's a real honor to be working with the school. And it was just such a beautiful way to become acquainted with the work and the school itself. So I just think it's important to preference why I'm here, and I really believe in this work and this model. All right, so if I can get the slide. Okay. So as an introduction to these skills, these meta skills, so mainly the ones that we're going to be working with today are beginner's mind and compassion. I just wanted you to take another moment to bring to mind, like I shared that experience with you of how profound this person's impact was on myself. If you could bring to mind somebody whose presence helped you feel just more fully yourself, and also just bring to mind as well these qualities that they embodied. So what were the qualities that they embodied? So, for example, with my experience, I don't think I'd ever felt so seen before. And that helped me to feel so safe and then really was able to have compassion for my own experience and the things that I was traversing in my life at that time. And just remembering as well, when you bring to mind this person, what was the felt sense experience of being with this individual, and how did you feel that in your body at the time? So feel free to take a moment to journal, or if you would like to, I'd love to hear from you in the chat. If you wanted to just share one word, and I'll give you a couple of moments to do that. Mm, okay, so we've got some coming through now. Relief, beautiful. Yeah, it is a relief to be around somebody like that. Spaciousness, yeah, to feel heard. Curiosity, and then a complete relaxing of body stress. I love this. Somebody said coming home. That's beautiful. They validated my feelings. I felt fully seen and my body responded with a big somatic release. I love that. Oh, and somebody said softening and safety. Yes. That feeling of being safe is so important, especially when we're working with people in a therapeutic capacity, and a depth of presence. And presence is the other thing. Yeah. So important. Oh, thank you so much for sharing. I love hearing about your experiences. Yeah, so these are all the qualities that we try to help you cultivate when you are working with the Metavision model and meta skills. So I just wanted to give you like a little taste of that because you've all experienced it at some point before, but just not um, understood it underneath the umbrella of Metavision's model with working with meta skills. All right, so um, yeah, so I thought it would be really important as well to just talk about what makes Metavision really different from other trainings. I haven't actually, I've stayed with Metavision. So I started my studies with them in 2020 around COVID, and I did my basic skills training. So I'm not sure if any of you have done any other trainings with Metavision prior to thinking about doing the masters. But yes, I thought the massive difference for me with Metavision was that they really integrated this aspect and it was taken really seriously that your personal inner work, it's part of the professional training itself. So you're really encouraged to learn about yourself, to learn about your edges, to develop these meta skills. And I think that it's really different from just looking at um, it's more of an attitude of being rather than looking at specific techniques. So, alongside working, of course, with techniques and ways of being with people, the personal inner work, it's really encouraged. And in fact, you will be, if you do your masters, you will have to complete a certain amount of hours, not just in supervision, but in personal therapy. So I think that's so important for us to just get to know ourselves and really take this personal inner work. Um, yeah, so to really take it seriously because it's going to have such a huge impact on how you are showing up with your clients and in the world and in your relationships. So I think that the fact that Metavision takes that so seriously is a key factor for me, and it's just a really strong point of difference. But I think it's a really beautiful one as well. Um, and I think if we had more people working in the world as therapists that had a strong sense of self-awareness and had worked through a lot of their issues, yeah, it's just going to make the world a much better place and therapy a much safer place too. And so they see also the Metavision model, or we would see the therapist as more of an instrument. So it's not just our ability to deliver techniques and look at finding solutions to symptoms, but you're an actual instrument yourself. So the work that you've done on yourself is going to create this atmosphere or this field between you and the therapist. And then the clients get to experience who we are, and so not just what we know. So in the case of myself working with a Metavision trained psychotherapist for many years, I think I was working with this individual for 7 years, so a long time. Um, it was the experience of the relationship itself that was really, really integral to healing for me, and not just the technique. So if I think about, oh, what did they do or say during that time that we worked together that was profoundly healing, it wasn't so much the technique, but it was just the quality of attention that they had and the presence that felt really healing. So the relationship itself. So Metavision puts a really strong emphasis on that. And it also in regards to transference and counter-transference, it's really important that we know ourselves so we can understand what is ours and what is the clients and what we're working with. Sorry, somebody else just wants to come back in. All right, so that I think is an important point in regards to the Metavision model. And for me, it's my favorite point of difference for sure. Okay, so I'm not sure if any of you are familiar with process work itself or have had any experience with a process worker. However, it was developed by a Jungian psychologist whose name was Arnold Mindell. And he also draws from many other techniques, if you would, or even looking at things like Taoism, Steiner. So there's a real spiritual component and a real aspect of looking at the body and looking at symptoms as information rather than problems to be solved. So quite often, Arnold Mindell would be looking at the client's symptoms from that viewpoint of there's a rightness to everything. So very different from the pathologizing stance that a lot of people take. And I think in today's day and age, it is another real point of difference in that everyone's so acutely aware of their problems these days, and that it can become quite consuming for the individual. So they may really identify with their issues or the things that they have going on or their symptoms, and overly identify with them, and then it just doesn't really allow much breathing room for change. So with process work, looking at the symptoms as information rather than problems to be solved. So it's not the whole being; it's just an aspect that's asking for attention, for information. So with process work, we attend to the dreams and the dreaming. There is a really strong emphasis on body experience, on relationships as well, conflict and systems. So there's a cultural approach too. So looking at culture as a whole and systems. And then also looking for meaning and intelligence within experience. So there is this belief that there's a rightness to everything and we follow the process. So really in a process work session, you're letting the clients lead and you're following their process. So the therapist it's non-hierarchical. So there's not this idea that the therapist is there to fix or solve the problems. They're there to accompany the clients on their journey. All right. So the two skills that I wanted to introduce you to today are the beginner's mind, which is the one that I opened with before, and compassion. So there are quite a few others. And just to say as well that meta skills came a little bit later on within process work. Arnold Mindell's partner, Amy Mindell, was the one that actually wrote a book on meta skills, and it's a really amazing book. I don't know if I can probably, well, I'll leave it in the chat, and if you are interested in reading it, it's definitely worthwhile reading. It's really accessible, and it's called Meta Skills: The Spiritual Art of Therapy. And it's a really beautiful book. And I think the other thing with process work is that there there is there it's not so directional, as in it's not step one, two, three, four, five, six, seven. It's the meta skills are foundational to understanding process work, because this is the qualities that we want to embody whilst working with other people. So it's the underlying feeling in the room and not so much the techniques. So the two that we open with, or that we introduce students to, would be beginner's mind. And I'll just run through just a few dot points, because we all have different ways of experiencing things and understanding them. So with the beginner's mind, we always meet the person and the moment as though it's the first time. So it's really just this sort of almost like having this childlike wonder and in every experience that we encounter when we're working with people. So we really bring in that we're holding the theory lightly rather than assuming that we already know. And we notice before interpreting. And so we become curious before we try to solve the problem. So we're coming in with curiosity rather than this agenda to solve the problem. With the beginner's mind, we remain receptive to what surprises us and does not fit our first explanation. So we might have an idea or a concept in our mind when we're working with somebody, and maintaining that beginner's mind means really just being open to following that person or that individual's process, even if we have another idea in our mind of what it was. So allowing ourselves to be surprised and allowing uncertainty to become a place of inquiry rather than a sign of failure. So that's beginner's mind. And then for compassion, which we're all really familiar with, and I think it's something that's really easy for us, I think, a lot of the time, especially for women. And I don't want to speak for everyone, but I know for myself as a woman, sometimes it's really easy for us to offer that to other people, but maybe not to ourselves. So I think it's also just learning to have these qualities, even when we are addressing our own issues, which we're going to come to in a second. So compassion is just our ability to recognize suffering without judgment, shame, or distancing. So it's our ability to offer warmth and also respect autonomy and just not rushing in to rescue, which I can be guilty of too. I think it's something like it's really important for us to be honest and just hold these things in the background too. Make room for experience before demanding that it changes. And bringing kindness to the parts of self and to the parts of others that are really difficult to understand. And compassion also, to be compassionate, is to stay present enough for curiosity, acceptance, and change to become possible. So beginner's mind helps us to loosen this certainty that we have a lot of the time, and compassion changes the quality with which we meet what we discover. Together, they allow us to approach experience without immediately turning it into a problem. So I just think they're really beautiful qualities to cultivate, and they might sound really simple and really obvious, but I do believe that there is a real art to being with these with ourselves and with others as we're working with them. So it's our ability also to hold both, yeah, as we're working with other people. So I'd really love to invite you to have a taste of working with this, and maybe this is an exercise that you could do in a session with a potential client. It's just more of a personal inquiry today, but just to give you a little feel for how we might work with these meta skills in a session or, in our own inner work. So I'm just going to change the slide. All right. So yes, obviously there are no right or wrong answers. It's simply just an invitation for you to notice your inner experience with curiosity. Okay. So I'm not going to ask you to share. This is just simply for yourself. So um, just take what resonates, and if it doesn't, just allow yourself to just be with the experience, and know again there's no right or wrong. It's just to explore. So I'd love you to again just take a moment to get really comfortable. Some of you look really comfortable with the people that I can see. And just if it feels right, this is all invitational, closing down the eyes. And if it doesn't, then just lowering your gaze really ever so slightly. And I just want you to bring to your mind one aspect of yourself that you have been finding a little bit difficult lately. So it could be a habit, could be a behavior, a feeling, or a pattern that you've been judging yourself for. So I want you to choose something that's present, but it's not overwhelming, not too big. Um, for now, just to acknowledge that that part or pattern is here, and just sit with it for a moment. So then I'd really love you to see whether you can meet this part of yourself as though you're encountering it for the first time. So it's the first time you've ever encountered this part of yourself. So rather than assuming that you already know why it's there or what's going on or judging, just simply become really interested, curious. Invite that childlike aspect of self to interact with this part. So what do you notice? Is there anything that surprises you? And what have you never stopped to ask this part before? So now imagine just for a moment that this part developed for a reason. So it has a purpose. It's here for a reason. What might it be trying to do for you? What might it be protecting? Is there anything that it's longing for? And if it were not an enemy, what else might it be? So as you become more aware of this part, and as you stay curious, just notice what is happening in your body. And just noticing where you're experiencing sensations in the body. Perhaps it's in the chest, in the stomach, in the throat, the jaw, or even the shoulders. And take a moment to notice the quality of the sensation. So, is it tight? Is it heavy, warm, or restless? Numb, even, open, or something else? So, there's no need to alter it, just let your awareness accompany it, as if you're just sitting with a friend. And as you sit with this part, I'd love for you to imagine offering this part of yourself the same kindness that you may offer a close friend. So, not fixing it, not analyzing it, just offering it some warmth, and perhaps inviting it into a small conversation or dialogue. And if it wants to speak, maybe take note of what it wants you to know about it. And once you've taken a moment to listen, perhaps you have something that you would like to offer this part, something that you would like to say to this part. What might it most need to hear from you this moment? So you could silently offer a phrase such as, I'm listening, or it makes sense, or you don't have to do this alone. So just take another moment to notice whether anything has shifted internally or physically, somatically. Um, it might be a really subtle shift. So there might be more space, more softness. There might be a change in emotion. There might even be some resistance, which is totally normal. And sometimes there's no change at all. And then when you're ready, just gently bringing your awareness back into your space and the room around you, in taking all the time you need in the next minute to gently flutter open the eyes and just take in the space around you before coming back to the screen. And then, if and only if this feels right for you, um, I just love to invite you to put a word in the chat and to share with the group and myself, like one word for what the experience was like, just to sit with that part and invite in those meta skills of the beginner's mind and compassion and how it was to work with them. And if you don't want to write in the chat, that's so fine. You can always just make some notes. I can see people have some paper and a pen there and they're just taking some notes. I think that's really nice as well if you want to stay with that experience. And I'll just give everyone another minute. Beautiful. So somebody said warmth and eagerness. That's really lovely. Yeah. And I'll just give another minute if anybody else wanted to share. There's no pressure. So I know when I offer myself this practice, if I notice that, for example, one of the things that I think so many of us struggle with, me personally in my journey, is anxiety. I think it's just part and parcel of the world that we live in the pace that we're all moving at and that the world's moving at around us. And I notice that if I do a practice like this for myself in the morning, or even if I'm feeling really low, just sitting with this part of me and inviting that curiosity and compassion, it's really healing. Like it shifts for me. It will shift almost immediately, and I can see some other messages coming through in the chat. So a possibility of deeper awareness coming
with further time and bringing the issue closer. Yeah, it's just like there's a little window, a little door for us to have a conversation with that part that sometimes it's difficult to be with. It's just cultivating those skills. And somebody else said patience. Yeah, beautiful to be patient. It's a good quality with ourselves for sure. Thank you so much for sharing and thank you for participating. Oh, hang on a second. Somebody else has said, I never thought to ask, how can I better support you? Yeah, absolutely. It's just asking that part of us what we need and how we can support ourselves rather than like bulldozing and it's cultivating listening for ourselves as well. So that deep listening. And if we can do this for ourselves and if we can be with these difficult parts and pieces, it's so much easier for us to do that with our clients as well. And we speak from experience and you know they get a felt sense of the fact that we have done our inner work and that we're able to sit with those challenging aspects of self within ourselves and then within our practice. Um, so yeah, thank you so much for your participation and for taking the time to really sit with that exercise. I think what I love also about Metavision is that we offer you the chance to do your own inner work in a setting like this in the classroom. So this will actually be part of your training, and I think it's such a gift to be able to have that time to really travel within and get to know ourselves so that we can better support others. And I wanted to, before I open up for some conversation, if anybody's wanting to share, we've still got about 10 or so minutes. I just thought it would be really lovely to just sit with this invitation for the week and practice, these skills that we have experienced with beginner's mind and compassion. So is just to notice when you're certain that you already know what something means and just to question that. Um, and then also with this practice, if this practice resonated with you and you're having a rough day or a morning, or even if a friend is, that it's something that you can work with and just offer yourself this gift of compassion and just being with that curiosity, that beginner's mind. Um, all right, so I'll just finish up with a little quote that I think is really beautiful. And it's just in regards to how we're working within our private practice or working within a practice with a client. And it's just to note that clients do not simply experience our interventions. So the techniques that we're using, they experience our presence. And I think working with Metavision and cultivating these skills is also cultivating a certain type of presence that you bring into that relational field, which becomes the catalyst for some beautiful healing with our clients. So thank you so much for your contributions and for trusting me today and for taking the time to sit with some parts of yourself that are a little bit more difficult and to just have a small taste of what it might be like to engage in a inner work lecture for Metavision. So I'm just going to stop sharing my screen so I can see all your lovely faces. And I'm going to, offer you the next 10 minutes or so. If anybody has any questions or anybody would like to share anything, just feel free to pop your hand up and or any closing thoughts, just what you're taking away from our time together today. Yeah, so I'll hand the floor over to you. And again, thanks so much. No, no takers. That's all right. All
I have
right.
a
Yeah,
question,
sure, Lisa, go ahead.
but it's not about the inner work unit. Is that okay?
That's fine.
So I've just seen that the graduate diploma is 1 year and the master's is 2. Is the first year of the master's the same content as the graduate diploma?
Yes, I believe so. Yeah. Yes. So you can stop just after the 1 year and do the grad dip, and then you can continue on for the second year and do the master's.
Thank you. And I can't remember what it's called, but the introductory sort of counselling skills units, are they a prerequisite if you haven't done any counselling? Well, that's actually not the question. Are they a part of the units of the graduate diploma? So if you do those, do they count for some kind of
Oh, okay. Like
content?
yeah, I think I understand what you're saying. No, it's if you, I think if you don't have any experience in counseling and psychotherapy, they are like there's a bridging course, which is the holistic counseling skills. But I would have to double check because it was a while ago that I actually did it myself. I did have some prior learning and experience with somatic therapy, but it's something that I'd probably have to speak to one of my other colleagues about, but we can definitely, I can take down your details, or if you want to just send me your email and we can get back to you for sure. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're so welcome. Anybody else before we finish up? And if you don't want to share, that's so fine. But perhaps you can just put one word in the chat about what you're taking away from our session or our time together today. And again, yeah, thank you. Thanks for taking the time out of your day um, to just come and try something different. And I hope, yeah, I hope you have a beautiful afternoon. Oh, okay, we've got some comments here. Gratitude, curiosity to know more. That's great. um, Openness, greater awareness, curiosity and spaciousness. Beautiful. Peacefulness. Thank you for your time. Very grateful. Love Metavision. Oh, somebody has a Steiner training background wondering about costs. Great. Send an email through. I don't know off the top of my head, but it's a really good question. And somebody's saying relief. Oh, that's really beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing, everyone. And yeah, it was really, really lovely to be with you. And I hope to see you around. If you've got any questions, any further questions, just feel free to send us an email. And we will hopefully be in touch with you really soon. So have a lovely afternoon. And again, thanks so much. It was really nice to be with you all. All right. Take care of yourselves. Bye. Bye.